The early to mid 2000s gifted us with so many great games: Half-Life 2, Doom 3, Prey, Resident Evil 4, Grand Theft Auto, and mixed in with those great games was a game that really fell under most people's radars despite its positive reviews. Of course, I'm talking about The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. If you don't know, Butcher Bay and its sequel, Assault on Dark Athena, both take place before the events of the Riddick movies. And I gotta tell you, these movies are great. You've got Pitch Black, The Chronicles of Riddick, and Riddick. There was some animated stuff somewhere between Pitch Black and Chronicles, but I never watched it, though I've heard it's good. To me, these movies are the perfect dad movies, right? They're fun, goofy at times, sci-fi action, with just a hint of cringe to really perfect the blend.
It's been a long time since I smelled beautiful. I'll kill you with my teacup.
God, I sure do miss the days of watching them back to back with my dad. He'd always be sitting in his wooden rocking chair eating some ice cream or cereal, because that's all I ever saw him eat, for some reason. Rest in peace, Dad. I still miss you. While Butcher Bay takes things slower, it does not detract from the overall experience. It does a great job of really making you feel like Riddick himself. So without further ado, let's talk about the story of Butcher Bay. We start the game off with a really well implemented training section that doesn't actually happen due to it being a dream. Don't worry, that trope only appears one time in this. The game starts off proper with our captor Johns dropping us off on Butcher Bay. I say on because Butcher Bay is the name of the planet, not just the prison. We meet the warden, Hoxie, who both Johns and Riddick seem to have a history with, though more Johns than Riddick. After saying our hellos, we're escorted to our cell while the credits roll, and surprisingly, Butcher Bay has some big names. Obviously, we got Vin Diesel and Cole Hauser, but we also have big names like John DiMaggio, aka Mr. Disney, or Jake, Ron Perlman, Exhibit, Michael Rooker. The man to our left is Abbott, played by Exhibit. He's Hoxie's right-hand man, and quite the troublemaker. Once we're deloused, or disinfected, or whatever you want to call it, we're set free to walk around our cell block where we can chat with the other inmates, some of which will even give you basic jobs to do. You'll notice really fast that the name Rust tends to pop up in conversation. He's the leader of the local gang known as the Aquilans. While some of the inmates suggest that you fall in line with the Aquilans and Rust, the majority of them say, hey, we can live without him. They even go so far as to suggest that I, Richard B. Riddick, kill him, which means I'll need a shiv, or some kind of weapon. Luckily, this guy out here named Matson is willing to help me, or so I thought. As it turns out, it was just a setup by Rust.
Riddick, Rust bids you welcome to Butcher.
Though when I come out alive, Matson shits his pants and then finally obliges to give me a shiv. But right as I get my hands on the shiv, Rust decides to show up and crash the party. Fucking prick. He's quickly shut down and proven to be nothing more than a little stinker. A little stinker. During the scuffle, Abbott shows up to shit-talk Rust and reveal that he's somehow tied to the Aquilans. Shitty part is I'm forced to give up my shiv, and Matson is made an example of, but it doesn't scare me. Rust then retreats back to the group's cell block. He thinks him and his boys run things, but fail to see the strings that are attached to them. Okay, I failed to mention that you don't have to get a shiv, but in case you want one, you'll have to do a small job for woman. This person, he wants you to kill this guy named Molina once his cell opens. I guess he roughed up the wrong person. Wait, who did he rough up? Ron Perlman. Really? Yeah. Well, fuck me running. Also, did I say shiv? I meant knuckle dusters, but don't worry, they're much better than the shiv. Now, at first glance, the Aquilan block may seem intimidating. That is until you realize that the enemies attack you like they're in a movie. You'll hardly ever fight more than one at a time, though there have been a few instances. Despite the obvious flaw there, the hand-to-hand combat actually is pretty fun. You can string together combos, you can parry attacks, and you can even perform takedowns if the enemies have low enough HP. I mentioned how the knuckle dusters are better than the shiv. I mean that, by the way. The shiv just feels slower and less effective than just pummeling your enemies. Goodbye, Mr. Blum. I'm sure you'll be in the next game I choose to play. Once Rust is taken care of, Abbott will offer you his position as the new Rabbit. But Riddick clearly doesn't take too kindly to that idea and just walks away without saying a word. I wish I could do that to a lot of people. I'm just kidding. I don't have a spine. Hey, it's me post-editing. I just realized that I failed to mention the in-game collectibles. Throughout the game, you can find cigarette packs on the ground. Some inmates will gift you a pack if you help them, and certain inmates will even sell them to you. There's about a couple thousand of these things laying around the prison. They don't really do anything, as they are just collectibles, but some of them have cool names, I guess. Word of Rust's death is spread quickly around the cell block, and the inmates rejoice. And as a reward for killing Rust, inmate Haley offers up some info about the pit in the center of the yard and how it could be used as an escape route. There is just one glaring problem though, and that is, all of the guards' rifles are DNA encoded, which means I need to get my hands on a rifle with my DNA, because these fucking knuckle dusters aren't going to protect me for very long, though I wouldn't be surprised if someone's used them for the whole game. There is a silver lining in this, and that is that the room in which I need to get to is very easily accessible through the infirmary, and luckily, the infirmary guard owes Haley a favor. Once I'm in the infirmary, I clear the room and give myself a nice health upgrade with this health upgrade station. Not to be confused with the 2000s wall-mounted health stations. There are only a small handful of these things, so don't get used to seeing them. What follows is a nice bit of stealth, which is later broken up with gunfire after you add your DNA into the system.
Unscheduled DNA sample added to prison staff databank. Notifying system security.
Now things get interesting.
Security. You're going.
And to top it off, you're thrown into a mini-boss fight with the Riot Guard. Its only weak point is its back, so surprise attacks are recommended. Upon returning to your cell block, you'll notice that a riot is broken out. I guess the surviving Aquilans weren't too happy about me killing Rust. Little do they know, they just provided the perfect distraction. While the guards are preoccupied with the rioters, they are not blind to your presence, so be mindful. Also, watch out for the wall-mounted turrets. They'll chew away at your health if you don't pay attention. Ready for a cool, if highly unbelievable moment? Riddick uses a guard to break his fall into the pit. And all he needs to do is just pop his neck. Badass, bro.
It's a sudden stop at the bottom.
And now for the horror section of the game. Another great thing that Butcher Bay does is it mixes things up at kind of just the right time. Like, are you tired of running and gunning? Well, here's a bit of horror to cleanse the palate. You have to navigate around in the dark while these naked freaks chase you around, and as far as I know, they don't stop spawning. So if you want kind of a horde mode, I guess hang around down here, but in the event you decide to continue the story, you'll have to navigate through the dark until you find a doctor that can patch up your wounds. And naturally, before he begins, he asks a favor first, because of course he does. What does he want? He wants his radio back, or as he calls it, his voice box. Like, get it yourself, you lazy old fart. You got down here somehow. Can't anybody do anything for themselves? It's okay though, because he gives you a box of, I don't know, 1,000 flares. That's an exaggeration, but it's a good amount of flares that you can use in the dark, though it doesn't really fix the situation. It kind of just adds another thin layer of horror, because watching these naked fucks appear out of the darkness, just hobbling like they are, is just, something about it is just a little unnerving. Pretty sure I had a dream where something like this ran up to me and exploded. So anyways, I get him his voice box back, and while he's patching me up, the disembodied voice of a woman invades my head to tell me that I've been blind for far too long, and she wants to give me a gift. The gift being the ability to see in the dark, also known as eye shine. And I must say, it makes seeing in the dark a heck of a lot easier. Just make sure not to use it in the light. And hey look, we get a trial run too. Awesome. we've managed to crawl out of the pit and into the shower block. Thankfully, no naked freaks are running around this time. Instead, we get to sneak around in the dark again, and even get a hitman level disguise, which allows us to just walk around freely, despite me and my face being pretty well known around the prison. I guess these welding goggles do as good of a job as slapping a bandage over the barcode on the back of my head. Seriously, some of the guards even recognize me as Riddick, but just pass it off as, oh, he's a lookalike. Like, come on, guy. Regardless, the next thing on my to-do list is to hunt down Abbott, that little rascal. After a brief session of asking around, nobody seemed to have a solid answer on where I could find Abbott, except this one shopkeeper who conveniently has a package specifically for Abbott. Yeah, I'll take that for you there, bud. And the funny thing is, Abbott knows my voice, and even after hearing my voice, he's still oblivious enough to just let me in. Hey, Abbott, I've got something for you. A knuckle sandwich. God, just fucking shoot me. Needless to say, I beat the fuck out of Abbott, and just before I deliver the killing blow, Johns pops up out of the shadow to take me out of the prison. I guess Johns and Hoxie couldn't come to an agreement on terms of pay. Speaking of Hoxie, just before Johns can begin his plan, he shows up to crash the party, and he's a little, how can I say, teed off, so much so that he opts to send me down into the mines. Okay, not actually the mines, but it's a little hub area section area next to the mines called Tower 17, and in my opinion, this is one of the best, if not the best part of the game for me.
I'm sending you to the mines, Riddick. Down below the surface, where the sun never shines. You'll be the target of every Khan looking to make his bones with the Aquilans. I expect things could get ugly.
I'll be disappointed if they don't.
So Tower 17 is the third hub area, and it's jam-packed with inmates just waiting to dump an obligatory job on you. And unlike the first hub, most, if not all, the missions down here are optional, though I'd still talk to them because they can give you some pretty important information, like how this guy Jagger Valance has gone missing and he's suspected to be hiding out in the mines. Like, that could be a potential contact for when I get down there. Speaking of the mines, the only way to get down to the mines is through the work pass, but you'll need a certain key card to gain access. As far as I can tell, the only real mandatory mission is this fight club thing. Only with this fight club I can actually talk about it. Oh man, just give me a sitcom. Give me a sitcom on ABC. The premise is simple. You fight several people that increase with difficulty. Now, the person that orchestrates the ring is named Centurion, although he's not technically allowed to schedule the fights. Instead, what you have to do is he'll throw out a name that he suggests that you fight. So you have to go find this person and go, hey, I want to fight you. And they're like, yeah, whatever, okay. And then you go to the ring, you fight him, you kill him, the guards drag him away, and you repeat that process several times until you beat the final boss, which gains the attention of Abbott, who just so happens to have the pass key to the work pass. But first, Abbott decides to take you to a small enclosed room and give you a few love taps with a club. But right before things could get any worse, that disembodied woman's voice comes back into my head and reminds Riddick that he is a Furian. And now, for those of you who don't know, the Furians are a warrior class race that are basically extinct, and Riddick is, well, one of them. Which I also guess means that this woman is too. And she also reminds Riddick of this great power that he has, so with a blood-curdling scream, Riddick releases a burst of angry energy that knocks everybody out except for Abbott, who I proceed to beat to death. Pick up his key and head over to the work pass, and don't even fucking bother with Velma here. He's just gonna be a dick to you and then ask you for a favor. What's that favor? Oh, well, he wants his glasses because he lost them. Fuck you, buddy. Fuck you. By the way, make sure this riot guard doesn't see you entering the locked room because he may or may not open fire. And just like that, we're back in the dark with more Judge Dredd lookalikes to kill. I am just now realizing that's what they look like.
Unauthorized.
Why is there a ladder in the vent? Can I get a bruh sound effect? Perfect. Hitch a ride on top of this elevator and you're on your way to the mines. I will say that the stealth in this game isn't necessarily difficult, but the mines really took some patience, though that's probably due in part to the fact that I suck at stealth. But the mere presence of the riot guards was enough to make me sharpen my awareness. And while yes, I did get by the riot guards pretty easily, there was this part where no matter what I did, I would get spotted. And since I had just come from Tower 17, that means I have no weapons, which means no way to return fire, at least for now. And it's not just the guards I have to worry about either, because this guy aggroes me after I save him. This next part isn't mandatory, but it is just basic common sense. If you take the cargo lift down, you'll find a guy standing over a dead body, and his excuse for killing the guy is, well, he had a tranquilizer gun. And for the low price of 30 bucks, you can get your hands on the most overpowered weapon in the game, at least when it comes to the basic guards. One shot and they're down. But they don't stay knocked out forever, so be sure to actually take care of them when you knock them out. Whether it's by means of kicking them in the throat or bashing them with the gun, which I recommend bashing them with the gun because not only does it eliminate the threat, but it also disposes of the threat. Oh hey, it's Jagger Valance. Hey, can you tell me where the spaceport is?
There's a sealed-off area at the end of this corridor. Inside is a package that I need, but the area is filled with gas and...
Why I oughta... He left a package in a room full of toxic gas. This is getting ridiculous, guys. Okay, here you fucking mook. Instead of telling us about the spaceport, Jagger instead tells us about a nest of creatures that resides near the room full of toxic gas, which gives Riddick the brilliant idea of constructing a bomb to blow up the room, which would in turn release the creatures and cause hell for the guards. Luckily, Jagger knows a guy in Tower 19 named Jupiter who can arrange for such a thing to be made. He gives us the code to Tower 19 and kind of just invites himself to the escape. On my way to Tower 19, I came across something that really piqued my interest. Aw, hell yeah. You get to wreak havoc in your own riot guard mech? What a great switch up. And it honestly lasts just the right amount of time too, because once it starts to get old, it's already time to get out and sneak around. Good job, Butcherbait, you get a gold star. I'm able to meet up with Jupiter, who has already constructed the bomb despite there being no way of communicating that a bomb is needed, which means that he pre-made the bomb in case somebody were to need it. Okay. The poor guy gets mowed down the second he steps outside. With riot guards on either side of me, that left me with no choice but to hitch a ride on a cell transport. Some more stealth and panic tranking follows, along with an annoying bit where you attempt to bypass a gate by ramming your transport into it.
That rail's finished.
And then when that doesn't work, you have to find a switch to activate a different rail system. It sounds basic, I know, but it was a fucking bog. The bomb is successfully planted, but I get caught and sedated as I'm leaving the room. What did you say? Bring back the horror? Okay. The bomb worked flawlessly, and the monsters are Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, but proved to be more of an annoyance than a threat, at least the small ones anyways. They explode into viscera just like the naked pit freaks. It's the big ones you need to worry about. These motherfuckers are tanks. Best thing to do is to just lob grenades at it. Oh yeah, by the way, this section gives you grenades. During your traversal of the halls, you may come across the prototype rifle. It's a slightly better variant of the assault rifle that doesn't require DNA encoding, though the only notable differences are the rate of fire and the accuracy, which seems to have taken a fucking plummet. Not that the basic assault rifle was too accurate to begin with. My only way out of this area is by means of this giant drill, which is missing a power source, which means I have to track across the halls again to find a power cell. This game is basically just a series of fetch quests. It's fun though. The power cell is easily obtained, with the only real obstacle being a tank that I'm pretty sure you can just ignore by ducking into the next room. Unfortunately, you can't ignore the tank in the cargo bay, though I was lucky enough to cheese it after I got caught on a dead riot guard. Minigun. Now we're talking. There's a crashed vertebrate up on the wrong game, hang on. Okay, here's an example of a good FPS minigun, right? It dishes out a fuck ton of damage, a great rate of fire at the cost of movement speed, which is how a minigun should work. You shouldn't just be able to run around with it unless you're the Doomslayer, in which case I fucking get it. The only downside is it's not part of the main weapon roster, so when you're done with it, you just kind of drop it on the floor, though it's not the only instance where you get the minigun, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little disappointed when I watched it hit the ground. I really wish I would have kept it though, because this part would have been so much easier, but no, instead I had to play a game of cat and mouse with this riot guard, and it fucking took me 3 to 5 business days to take him down, but it worked. Hey, it's been a minute since I've seen one of you, he says as he burps up the Oscar Mayer bologna sandwich he just ate. Oh, go to hell. Hey, baby. You see what I mean? Quick work. It's here where the game decides to throw a Doom/Quake style boss fight on you. Shoot it until it's dead. Plain and simple. Man, oh man, I can see the escape ship. I can practically fucking taste the escape. I'm so fucking close. Was the thought I had when I first played this game, only to realize the game is fooling me into thinking the game is over. Because from where I'm standing, they're throwing everything they've got at me, so this has to be the end of the game, right? Wrong. Oh hey Johns, where the fuck have you been? A scuffle breaks out between them, and Jagger manages to shoot both of them at the same time. Or at least I think. The angle seems a little weird, but okay. Jagger is unfortunately gunned down while Riddick and his frenemy bleed out on the ground. They're both taken in and treated for their wounds before being taken to Hoxie. Predictably, instead of just outright killing Riddick, he decides to throw him in a different part of the prison, known as cold storage. Welcome to cryogenic hell. Please enjoy 2 minutes of forced exercise, followed by endless hours of sleep. Yeah, I don't plan on hanging out for very long. After just a couple of days in, Riddick uses another inmate's pod to get out. And just like that, we're on the loose again. Hoxie, you might as well just throw in the towel, buddy, because I ain't giving up until I'm off this rock. While these things look like riot guards, they are much weaker, so just run past them for the time being. At least until you get a gun, or alternatively, and I much prefer this option, remember that Quake boss fight from earlier? Yeah, now you get to pilot one of those things, and it blows the riot guard section from earlier out of the fucking water. I mean, I'm stomping around the palace, kicking up the floor as I go, as the guards pitifully and feebly attempt to stop me. I don't know how he did it, but Johns returns with his ship and kindly gives me a ride. But wait, what about Hoxie?
And you know the drill.
Let's play.
I'll give you a loud gun.
Wow, a couple of mechs that turn invisible. Yeah, they're no match for my minigun.
Can you walk, Johns?
Yeah, I think so.
Run?
Maybe, but I wouldn't try to find out.
Converge on the warden's office. We have a hostage situation.
If you got a clean shot at Riddick, take it!
See, that's a good disguise. You fucking had me fooled. Bye-bye, Butcher Bay. They then lived happily ever after. Wait a minute.